All right, we are live. This is the Tesla Beat podcast. We have our usuals, Joe at SJV Tesla, president of San Joaquin Valley and NorCal Reno. And then we also have the Jeff Lutz, our supply chain expert. Amy could not make it this week, so we're a little bit bummed by that, but hopefully she can be back next week. And we were able to reach out to a special guest. It's a person who I've gotten to know a little bit, especially I've seen him make several appearances on Farzad's channel. And so this past week, I thought I would just reach out with Amy not able to make it. So let's bring in Hans.
What's up, thanks Hans? For having me today. I'm excited.
Of course. Well, just tell us a little bit about yourself to our viewers and people that may not know who you are.
Yeah. So I'm a mechanical engineer by education, but kind of a dilettante in reality. I had my fingers in a lot of different things over the years, and super passionate about tech. An autodidact. I love to learn about everything that I can learn about. And got super interested in Tesla back in probably 2018. And went down the rabbit hole. Have been following the space very closely ever since then, kind of increasing my conviction and my position with Tesla over time. And then about a year ago now, I started participating in Farzad's channel, and that sent me down the rabbit hole of also now creating content. And so I'm growing a YouTube channel and an X profile, and just trying to learn everything that I can. I love having conversations with intelligent, curious people about, everything. Tesla definitely being one of the top subjects in there. So having conversations like this is pretty much my favorite thing to do these days.
Well, awesome, Hans. Thank you and welcome to the weekly beat. So we, as everyone knows, we just cover the latest news. We're not going to be updating you with everyday news. Like, this is not a daily show, but this is a weekly show just to kind of catch everyone up. Thankfully, Friday has worked out very well because I think it was literally last Thursday. But every Thursday, it just feels like, other than maybe a little bit yesterday, it's just like Tesla just drops news right before the weekend. And so our show has been really well set up that way. But either way, thank you for joining. So we appreciate it. But let's just get into it. So every week we just take a quick year-to-date view of how is the stock doing. Again, we know that the stock has kind of reached a peak this year of close to 300, if not eclipsed it a little bit. But it's softened a little bit. But again, it's up 135%. And we all know that back end of last year, it obviously really just tailed off. But either way, it's just, again, a quick view. But yeah, let's just get into some of the news. So this week, big news is Tesla Asia put out this tweet. Giga Shanghai has now gotten 2 million vehicles through their pipeline. And they did this, they produced the first million in 33 months. And then remarkably, they reached 1 million in 13 months. So, I would love to just get everyone's thoughts. Again, I know we all follow Tesla, in different cadences, but just I remember Giga Shanghai. I mean, if you think back, 33 months. So if you just take almost like this thing's been going a little bit over 4 years, and I remember this thing was a swamp, and there was so much FUD over this thing, and people were just like they were losing their minds over this swamp ground. So, but yeah, I don't know. Hans, I don't know if we want to step it over to you on, what this accomplishment means or what you thought on this news this past week.
Yeah, I think, referencing what you said, that was a huge point of FUD in the story. And that was really, I think, one of the things that was a huge catalyst in the first major breakout that we saw in 2019 was when the actual, the building went up faster than anyone expected. And then even more importantly than the building going up so quickly was production. Units started rolling off the line and things got going. So to see just the amount of progress, like looking in the rearview mirror at how quickly they have ramped up production at Shanghai and how it continues to just blow away expectations. A lot of people said that thing would never sell more than 500,000 cars a year. And now we've gotten almost a million produced in 12 months is what we're looking at right now. And, we're definitely on a run rate right now of being able to produce more than 1 million cars out of Shanghai a year. That is, incredible progress. And we know Tesla, they're not going to slow down. This is going to continue to ramp up. The Model 3, is going to see renewed strength in sales there. And, they've got separate lines for that. So that's not in any way going to impact Model Y sales, both domestically and globally. And so I'm looking forward, to the next million. And hopefully we see that in something on the order of 10 months instead of 13 for the next one. And that'll just continue to increase in cadence.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Just to think that I think even August, I think the sales were up 10%, 9.3%. I think it was year over year. I think they released some of the August numbers. So feel free to just fact check me on that. But this company, what Tesla's able to accomplish in China has been truly through mind blowing. I don't know if there's been any American company that has been able to go in there, and the red carpet has been rolled out. But Jeff and Joe, did you have any thoughts on this accomplishment?
Just real quickly.
Sure. Please,
sorry,
Joe,
Jeff.
Go ahead.
I just think like it can't be understated what they've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time, and all of this is happening while still being able to do what they're doing in Austin with an unfinished factory. I mean, that factory is not even done yet, and they're still able to produce and like you said, they're not resting on their laurels. Like, they keep finding ways to overachieve and go beyond what was even expected of them. So it's crazy. We're still at the beginning of this. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh yeah, no problem. I love the comments from yourself and Hans. Just to add, Tom Zhu, his background is actually construction of factories, and I don't know, and he's become an automotive executive. So when you look at the pace that this site was built at, and it's one thing to construct the factory, it's a whole other thing to actually staff it, capitalize it, and then actually get product flowing through it at an accelerated rate. And I do think they're on a path to progressively improve off of the latest million run. Yeah, I think the second thing is they've gotten this. There's other things about building up a factory in a super site, and that is how closely can you bring your supply base into your factory, literally, physically, from a distance perspective, as well as from a time perspective of transacting goods. And when you do that and you pull your network in closer, your financials improve, your cash improves, your ability to not have excess material, your comms improve, your quality improves. So not only did he construct this factory and the whole team there in record time, they got the labor in, they capacitized it, they ramped it, they've now brought the supply chain. I think they're about 95% locally sourced, which is incredible. And this is, I believe, one of the reasons the Model 3 refresh launched out of there first, because of that close proximity supply base and their ability to move and do tasks very quickly. It's actually the quickest path to launching a new product. So anyway, hats off to the team there, and I do think they're going to progressively improve from here.
And I just wanted to add to that we see this announcement against the backdrop of increasing narrative in the mainstream media that the Chinese are winning at EVs, and they're going to win, and they're going to increasingly put competitive pressure against Tesla. And I think they just totally missed the fact that Tesla China is literally the premier auto manufacturing entity in the entire world, including the rest of Tesla. They're better than GM, they're better than Ford, they're better than BMW and Mercedes and Volkswagen and all these companies. We've seen the foreign automakers in China just completely choke on themselves against this growing domestic competition that China is growing within their economy. But Tesla China is not only maintaining, they're growing, and they're still out competing the likes of BYD, NIO, XPeng, all these companies. Not only in their ability to grow pure BEV sales, but their ability to do so profitably. And so, you can put units against units, but if you don't have your unit economics right, and this is a point that Jeff likes to drive home very succinctly, and I think people really need to listen to this. Volume doesn't fix poor unit economics, and that's the thing that Tesla has going for it there in Tesla China currently. And regardless of what auto analysts say, BYD and other companies, they're not currently on a trajectory for that to be competitive head to head with Tesla.
Yeah, I think, man, you just opened up a freaking huge, huge box. Again, people are gonna, because I remember I see a lot of tweets throughout the week, so sometimes I'll get some of the numbers a little bit wrong, but I think there was a tweet. Elon even responded. Tesla has 127,000 employees, and I think it's BYD has like 606 or 700,000, and it just goes to show like how fast, how quick, how ruthless, how relentless, and how innovative this company is. And as we know, I've talked to several people that have a really solid knowledge base of China and the market there. And BYD, especially their volume, sometimes they've been outselling, Tesla, but it's also partially because of the price point. But as we clearly know, at least even in the United States and in the world, the Model Y is beating out like the likes of Toyota Corolla, which is half the price. And so people are going to be willing to pay for a premium product. And the price doesn't necessarily scare them off when they know that they're getting something quality. And with the next gen platform 3, that's the crazy thing, is that, Tesla's just, they're already thinking about, the next 5 to 10 years, if not further. Their issue is not picking what should they build. It's a matter of prioritizing. And so the next gen platform 3, which is going to save them even like 30% on costs, is going to absolutely change the game, especially in markets like China, especially in markets like Europe, where things are just, the compact car is king there. So I think, what you said was just very, very insightful. And it just is kudos to, the Tesla China team. Jeff and Joe, did you guys want to say something? Sorry, I thought you were. Nope. But yeah, so either way, props to Giga Shanghai. They're continuing to just perform, unlike any of the other factories, and just put out these amazing cars. So what's surprising about this slide? It's so Hilton becomes pretty much the destination mecca. It's going to become, I'm surprised it's 2023 and we're just now announcing some of this stuff. So Tesla Charging put out a tweet: universal wall connectors coming to 2,000 hotels in the US, Mexico, and Canada starting in 2024. That's going to be pretty much up to 20,000 wall connectors that are going to be throughout these 3 regions. But I'm just more and more surprised that more companies aren't begging Tesla to do more stuff like this. So you're starting to see this. I know for me, a lot of times I'll have to call because, some of these websites for the hotels won't list any of their wall connectors and charging. But it's a game changer when you can just plug in at the end of the night and then just wake up and you have a full charge, especially when you're on the go. But this is a huge feat. But again, I'm just shocked that this is not more regular, where it's like the Chevrons or even McDonald's, like they're not just like, hey, how can we make sure that every McDonald's on the road is a destination stop for charging? But yeah, any thoughts on this announcement this past week from Tesla Charging?
I think it's going to happen. I mean, I think these are just steps along the way, but I do think Tesla's charging solution has been chosen as the de facto standard. I mean, that happened, and um, and so I just think we're just seeing just steps along the way, and it'll be a little bit more of like a domino effect of this continuing until again this comes down to unit economics as well. Until somebody builds a more competitive solution that has equal or greater uptime, you need the whole package. You need the quality, you need the performance, you need the cost structure. And if Tesla's submitting bids that are 5 to 10x lower than some of the competitive bids that have been happening, you're going to see them continue to win out. I mean, why wouldn't it? And then, yeah, you go to a Tesla charger, it works. I still haven't encountered. I've been driving a Tesla for 10 years. I still haven't encountered a situation where I got to a charger and I couldn't charge my car. So to me, it's been 100% uptime, and they're being rewarded for that, both again in their unit economics as well as the performance of their solution.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we kind of touched on this a while back too, when the dominoes, like Jeff was saying, was first starting to fall. The inevitability of this was just profound. The fact that that you have a company that owns the vehicles as well as the fueling stations that those vehicles go on it's kind of, I mean, even Elon in an interview said once that they did this because they had no choice. At the time, they had the vehicles. They didn't have any fueling stations that were available for it, so they had to make their own. And luckily, well, not luckily, freaking through relentless efforts and everything they've done, they're at a point to where they have strategically placed enough stations around the country, well, the world really, in key locations and everything for everyone. And now, like, they're opening it up for everyone. It's just an inevitability. Like, to realize that, hey, this is a network that works. It's the uptime is incredible versus some of the other players, and we all know how that works out for anybody who doesn't have a Tesla. But to be able to have that a great fueling service for your electric vehicle and don't have to worry about any of the uptime like some of these stations they go to, and I mean, you've seen the videos. These people are playing roulette. You know what I mean? Like, they're getting in there gambling with their time and with their family's time and everything, just to pull up to a station and then be left out in the lurch. And I mean, that sucks. But for Hilton to be able to do this, and I mean, it's just another domino. I mean, it's like I said, just inevitability of what's to come. It should have been this way a long time ago. I mean, shoot, once Model 3 hit production, like 2019, this should have been a de facto from Model S and X standards rolling into the Model 3 lineup. It should have been a thing. Like, they should have already realized the writing's on the wall. This is successful. This company has very great uptime and it just works. And now it's the standard, and so now they have no choice.
That raises the question, that I'd like to just pose to the panel. Why do we think that it has taken this long for NACS to be adopted by the rest of the industry? Is that Tesla just wasn't ready to make it an open standard yet? Was that the automakers weren't ready to adopt it yet? Was it they don't have the capacity yet to manufacture enough chargers? And then, specifically on these destination chargers at a place like Hilton, why has this announcement also taken so long? Is it the being able to have the cost structure for those destination chargers to where it's something that makes sense for a company like Hilton? Or is it just lack of recognition on hotels' parts that this is something that really is a value add to their customers? What do we think the causes are behind those things?
I'll take hubris for 1,000, Hans. Yeah, no, you're literally looking at a situation. Tesla has stated from the very beginning that anybody who was willing to use their supercharger network, it was open to them. Like they've never. Elon has said that. I mean, you can look back at old interviews. Like he's been saying this for years. Like it's been open for people to do that. But like for anybody who remembers like Blockbuster, I'm old enough to remember Blockbuster Video. There were interviews with the whole board leadership, CEOs, and all that about Netflix and what they were going to do, and they didn't see it. They didn't see the future of it. They were like, "Oh, we're fine. We'll be fine." And we see how that turned out. And I think this is like indicative of that. I think a lot of these companies realized or thought that, oh, they're not going to make it. It'll be okay. We're good. But now we're rolling into, I mean, shoot, it's only 2023. It's about to be 2024, and it's moving a lot faster than people thought. And you can just see it in the take rate of like electric vehicles. Just not even 5 years ago, we were able to say, oh, it's less than 1%. And now it's like, well, it's less than 10%. You know what I mean? Like it's happening a lot faster than a lot of people thought. And you, I mean, yeah, just the hubris of like a lot of these execs and just people not willing to accept the inevitable. We were on a Spaces the other day. I know Jeff was in there. I don't know if you were, Hans, but somebody had said something about the age of people, certain ages of certain people, and how they expect things to be. And a lot of us are older, but all of these people who are like in their 30s and even some of the 20s or whatever, people that are just buying cars. I mean, you see it in kids. They know what a Tesla is. People aren't saying, oh my God, that's a Mach-E. You know what I mean? Like nobody does that. You know what I mean? Kids don't do that. They say, oh my God, that's a Tesla. Mom, look, there's a Tesla. You know what I mean? Like it just happens. So, but the older generation, man, anybody like over 50, and I'm over 50, but a lot of these people, they just don't see it. They're like, oh, well, gas is forever. You know what I mean? Like they have that frame of thought, and it's sad to see, but yeah, it's the inevitable.
I think I know the answer. In addition to what Joe was saying about Hubris, IRA. So the government said free money is coming back to you, auto OEMs, if you can produce more, battery packs or system assembly cars that are EVs or in case hybrids. And the Fords and GMs and all these other automakers of the world, like, well, one of the barriers for people buying our cars is the range anxiety, and the charging situation is terrible. Like if they didn't have access to the Tesla charger, you would have no confidence that you'd be able to take a road trip in your car and get from point A to point B. Or if you don't have a charging solution at home, you were just basically out. And so Ford and GM knew that if they didn't have a charging solution for their car, they wouldn't be able to ramp EVs and get this IRA money back in. And they have a collapsing capital structure in terms of, they're in trouble financially. So even Mary Barr is on the record saying, look, this saved us $450 million of OpEx spend, the capital spend this year, to not have to build these out and to partner with Tesla. So of course we're going to take this. I'm sure Ford had saved them couple $100 million too. So it basically unblocked their ability for their consumers. It got rid of that, like, can I charge my car or not? And it allows them to potentially produce more EVs once they actually get up and going. So it removed the barrier. I believe that. And with the IRA money, and it removed the barrier for them, they all jumped at it.
Yeah. Sorry, Joe, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think we're going to realize that, like, in short order, I think the IRA is going to be one of those things that happened in history to where it's going to be a turning point. I mean, once that was announced, it just made it so possible for so many other companies, and it's going to be interesting to see the fallout of it over the next few years.
Yeah, my opinion is that at least back to Hans's question, is that I think the main reason why we haven't seen this adoption sooner is, one, just how blind people truly are. Like if I'm a Chevron, if I'm an Exxon, or one of these big oil companies, they need to be thinking about what is next, what is ahead of them. And even if they know that, you know, oil is not ever going to be replaced completely, or if that even if EVs are not a thing, you know, in certain regions of the country for, you know, still the next 5 to 15 years, they at least need to be, you know, how do we adopt or adapt our gas stations into charging stations, at least in like places like California, places like Florida, because like I watched the video. We hung out with a guy um, from Singapore yesterday, and he visited Germany, and he said that they went to this like futuristic charging location, and they had over 200 stalls. Again, it was like, one of these destination kind of chargers, but they had over 200 stalls for various charging stations, and inside you had a restaurant or a couple restaurants and a shower and other, things there. But that's the future. It's like Europe seems to kind of get it, but people here are just so blind that it's not funny. And then, second thing is I think it's really just like these legacy auto really did not want to adapt to the North American charging standard, because that ultimately would mean that Tesla is in the lead. Tesla has established something in a space, because no one cared about EVs, even up until probably the past couple of years, as far as these legacy auto companies go. Sure, GM's been struggling for decades to make this, even though they had they brought one of the first ones out. I think it's the EV1. But, the Chevy Bolt, now they're getting rid of both of those. Now they're going to the the Equinox. It's just like one of those things where it's like they can't figure it out. And both Ford and GM have said, we are not going to be profitable on EVs this decade. So I think it's for them to say, hey, we are now adopting the North American charging standard. I mean, Honda just came out this week saying that we're going to adopt it. It's like, why are you even announcing at this point? You might as well just start already working on it. But I think it's just one of those things that, these companies, who I think were heavily involved in causing so much FUD over these years, and oil companies, this for them is kind of like, okay, you now have the crown, which they, never wanted to give, the charging crown, at least. I think the next crown that's going to drop, and again, this is potentially another tangent, is the software crown. There's no way that these legacy auto companies are going to be able to compete. And so I think there's just a couple more crowns that they're going to have to pretty much hand over to Tesla, whether they like it or not. And, I think the longer that they hold on to it, especially depending on what you are, right? Like when you're like a company like GM, like at this point, you might as well you've already pretty much given every part, and kind of Ford in some ways, you've pretty much allowed all of these other companies to build your whole vehicle. So why do you care if the software is going to be outsourced? Like what are you literally holding on to at this point? But yeah, I know we went on. That was a long tangent. Joe's starting to fall asleep. But yeah, it's just, one of those things where I think there's a lot layered into it. I think, I think it's just legacy auto did not want to give the crown to Tesla when it comes to charging, because that means that they've kind of created the next gas station. And then I think that from the oil company's perspective, it's the same thing. It's just that they're just completely blind, and they may even be more screwed. So, all right. So let's jump into the next topic, unless there's other thoughts. But yeah, thanks for that question to the panel, Hans. So let's just jump into it. All right, Joe, this is you.
Yeah. So when you watch this video, that poor guy just had to stand back and let this guy just film everything while he was charging it. So I feel there was another video that was released, but good to have this has a tow hitch, and you can see the cord going around. It's going to have, there's getting all kinds of data for how it's towing capabilities. I'm pretty sure they're looking at like weight distribution and all that type of stuff. So I can imagine that that Tesla's able to get some type of data when you're going to be towing things. It's going to let you know like, hey, it's doing this, or who knows, it might help with the traction control and everything like that. So I think that was pretty good. What was clearly noted was how close he had to pull back to this stall, because the charging cable just doesn't quite reach. And Yeah, they could have moved the charging port, but they were not trying to cut into the stainless steel because, they're trying to just make these things quickly. And what they found was that this plastic, easy, like it's a fender, cut it and just work with it instead of having to cut and line up perfectly all the metal the way it was like on the prototype. So I think a lot of people are not okay with this, but once the V4 start to roll out, they have longer cables. I think we'll be okay. And Tesla's showing you right here that, yeah, you can charge your truck. Your Cybertruck will be fine. Just going to require a little bit of finesse, but you can do it. So don't panic.
Yeah, and not all the charging stations are set up like this. Some of them
Right.
are set up more to the left so that it's not like, literally pulling. But yeah, no, it was like when I saw this video, I was like, man, well, the cable like looks like it doesn't quite look like it's about to break. I've seen worse setups.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really cool to see like more of like what these things are going to look like.
Yeah, that's just gonna be, it's gonna be very, very cool when people start showing up. I mean, most people are charging at home, right? I mean, the way I know we just got off the tangent of the superchargers, but literally, well, besides apartment dwellers, but the superchargers were meant to be a way to travel, so that you could like get out of your town and take road trips. But as we know, it has been eloquently pointed out over the past few months is that people are there's a lot of renters that don't own homes. They don't have a garage. They live in different situations, so they're going to superchargers often. And a lot of those people are going to be Cybertruck owners and everything like that. And so there needs to be something that's gonna change for that destination 2 type of situation. Not everybody needs a supercharger, but apartment buildings that have solar and things like that. I mean, this is different from what we're talking about, but there's got to be something that's got to switch with the owners of these complexes. Hey, you get solar and you add a few charging stalls, you can add that onto your rent cost. You know what I mean? Like for an extra $50 a person, that'll more than pay for everything. I mean, who knows what they would charge for it or whatever, but the convenience of that for that renter, that just speaks volumes. And that should happen. I mean the sun is like, it comes out all the time. Like to not have something set up at an apartment complex where people can charge, it just seems kind of ridiculous in this day and age, but that's a different tangent.
Hans, were you going to say something? Sorry, I
was just going to say, y'all in your West Coast sun.
I know. Yeah, no. But all right, let's I think the next one, and then we'll get into some more news. But Joe, I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah, this was pretty cool because you get to see it raised up. I mean, it's been rumored that the clearance of the Cybertruck is going to be like 16 inches, which is like industry leading, right? I think Rivian has the lead right now at 14.5 or something like that, 14.7 inches of clearance. But I mean, if the Cybertruck does this, and you can see from a few of those photos, I mean, like with it raised up, like holy cow, it's like it's got some clearance. It's gonna be. I mean, truly. I mean, we say it all the time. It's gonna be a beast. But I think like just realizing like the capabilities of this truck, and I know a lot of people don't like that rear design because they're like, oh, I can't use this truck on a daily. Like, a lot of people are going to use it daily, and it's going to be very functional.
Yeah, I don't think people realize. I think this is going to be the best-selling truck in America in the next couple of years. That's just my opinion.
I don't think it will. I don't think
so.
Because I don't think Tesla has a plan to make 1 million of these per year. I don't think that's their goal. I think they are. I mean, they're comfortable. They don't. I know people want them to be the leaders of everything, but they're not even leading in the range. I mean, Lucid has that. They're not even leading in like. I mean, there's a few aspects that they don't lead in, but it doesn't matter because the brand is still the brand. It's like Kleenex. You know what I mean? Like you're not even using the brand Kleenex, but you call it a Kleenex. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
Yeah.
And Tesla's just become that brand recognition for EVs. And I think like with this vehicle, as with like the next vehicle that's coming out, I'm not even talking about the lower EV. I'm talking about like something like a van or something like that they're looking at. I think these are all vehicle segments that they just want to enter, just to dip their toe into, and it just creates another revenue stream. Like this truck, they didn't have to build this. They were doing fine with the X and 3 and the Y best selling. You know what I mean? Like they were doing just fine. But to have this be another something else, and they only need to sell like maybe 300,000, and they would still be like number 2 or 3 in the country at that point. But yeah, I don't think they plan to sell 1 million of these a year. I don't even think that's the goal. I think
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Is that how much Ford's selling a year? Like over 1 million?
That's across all the F platforms. That's F-150, F-250, F-350,
Right.
and I believe it's globally. And I don't think right now it is. Like it's in the neighborhood of 1 million.
Well, yeah, they fell off last year. I don't think they for the 2022. I don't think they hit that number, but still close.
Yeah,
I'm going to respectfully disagree, though.
Okay.
Oh yeah, go for it, Jeff.
No, please go ahead, Hans.
Yeah, so I think my read on this one is it's actually more in line with what we saw for their volume expectations out of China. That, you know, they told us, oh, capacity is going to be 250,000. Oh, it's going to be 500,000. And then, you know, quietly in the background, they're producing 600, 700,000 a year while the nameplate is still 500,000. And the reason for that is really that it's mission strategic, that they need to demonstrate that an EV is, you know, just like the Model S Plaid for a time was the premier performance vehicle, like in all specs. They need to reach that point with a truck, and they need to show that an EV truck is going to outperform any ICE truck in its class. And, you know, if they do that and they can sell it profitably at a price, the demand is going to be there. And, you know, Austin is a huge location. It's a huge factory. I believe that they absolutely can ramp that to 1 million. And so I think they'll undersell it to begin with, but that over time, as the material or as the demand materializes for that truck, and this is a little bit, you know, the time frame on this could be in question, because I think one of the things that we're facing right now is an auto financing crisis. And we can talk about that, or we can, you know, skip that one for today. But that may impact the timeline of when they're able to do that, because these are very expensive vehicles. You know, even at the low end, we're talking about $50,000+. And so if you're struggling to finance vehicles at those price points, it will make it a little bit harder. But, you know, the entire auto industry is going to be facing the exact same situation, so they can outcompete, you know, other people that are on a level playing field there. But yeah, I think that will just continue to grow, and I'm guessing somewhere between 2027 and 2030, we do see actual sales volume of Cybertruck approaching close to 1 million units, and that it will surpass, like, it'll sell more units than the F-150 specifically, definitely within that time frame.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
I was just going to say, yeah, I believe they're designed a spec monster. I think that's one of the reasons, you know, this event is, you know, so widely anticipated, and there's nothing, you know, leaking. They've been watching the other EVs launch, and they want to build a complete spec monster. And I agree with Hans. It was something that would show that in every aspect it could replace its gas powered counterpart, because that's how you turn the fleet over from gas to something sustainable. So, and that's the mission of the company. Of course, they want to do it profitably. They want to ramp profitably and so forth. So, I believe that's what they're doing. I don't think they're actively adding capacity for 1 million a year right now. I think they want to figure out what's their ability to build it profitably. What's the demand really look like? What order book is really materializing? I think it's going to be gigantic. But I think they want to figure all that out. And I agree that with their guidance of 250 to 500K, they're picking some number in that range, and they're starting there. Probably take them a year to get to that run rate. And while they're doing it, they can assess the order book, and they can just go out and continue to not only expand their capacity, but during that time they can actually simplify the vehicle further, so they can have that capacity a little bit more profitably.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talk about the order book of like 2 million pre-orders or whatever, but I think all of that for me is irrelevant, because I remember the over 200,000 pre-orders for Model 3, and we see how that turned out. Once they started hitting the roads, all the crap that people were talking about, the one monitor and not having a heads-up display, and the front of it looking like a frog or a duck or whatever they were saying, like none of that mattered. Even to this day, it's still like selling in crazy volumes. And I think you could potentially see something like that. Like once the Cybertruck starts hitting the streets, everybody who hasn't even seen one, who doesn't even know it existed, will be like, what is that? Where can I get one of those? You know what I mean? Like, and I don't even think it's so much about the specs. Some people just like something different. There's going to be a lot of those type of people that just want to get something different. It has nothing to do with the specs of it, but I think the specs will be incredible.
Yeah, I was Googling it. I'm surprised. Do people even Google stuff? I guess ChatGPT, though, you can't really look up history. It's only up till September of 2021. So, but long story short, I was Googling it. It looks like they sell the F Series, sells 650,000 in 2022, and maybe that was a down year. But I think when I think of what it will sell, specifically the F-150, I think it could beat it out. But again, I don't know of the 650,000, how much of that is just specifically the F-150, because I think it will beat that potentially that. Either way, it's exciting. And like you all said, it's like the goal of Tesla, they're going to put out, because this is going to be their first truck, they're going to put out something that is industry leading. And yeah, the suspension being 16 inches high, like you were saying, is just absolutely incredible. And like, even at the Tesla takeover next year, it's going to be mind blowing to see the modded Cybertrucks in a freaking row. Like that, we might even just, I'm kind of joking, we just scrap the other modified Teslas and just put the Cybertrucks. But either way, it's going to be awesome to see how people mod these things out, how, like going out to the beach dunes and sand dunes, like how that whole industry potentially just changes or looks different because of the Cybertruck. All right. So one thing I wanted to mention too, so as we know, like Tesla's business model is kind of slowly changing. And what I mean by that is, for the longest time, they're getting pulled in so many different directions, and they just had no time for auto shows. They didn't have time for the Electrify Expo events. They didn't have time to even come to car shows in, these smaller cities. It actually, for the longest time, I think I can speak for Joe, but it's like a lot of times our clubs would be the actual representative of Tesla at these events. And now you're seeing, like, for the first time, I think it's like in 8 years, I think it was Sawyer who put that wording out. For the first time in 8 years, it's like they're going to the Detroit Auto Show, which is, again, it just speaks to the business model is changing. They're trying to get the awareness out that we know that they've started advertising. There's more and more events like, farmers markets or other little like local events that I'll even have members go to. And they're like, oh yeah, Tesla was there. And so, I think this is, this is going to be good for them. I think they need to get involved in more of these things. I know that the Model 3 refresh, I know the Tesla Owners of Slovakia president, he was out in Germany at that big auto show out there this weekend, sent me like 50 videos of the Model 3 on like the front, the blinkers, like the trunk. So I've been posting all of those videos. But Tesla's definitely, I think, doing it right by heading down this route. But any reactions to seeing things like this happening?
I think I'll say before anybody else speaks, I think that Tesla has Is that true, Jeff? They just pulled out of this? The Detroit Auto Show?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing on Twitter. I think Sawyer shared something.
We can skip the news.
That's unfortunate because what I've come to notice is that Tesla's been taking like a different route, like having them do like that whole press vehicle thing. CarWow leaked this before Tesla even like had anything to say about the Model 3 refresh, and that's unprecedented. You know what I mean? Like usually it would be Tesla would have something to say before anybody else, but they're doing things a lot differently in these days, and it's kind of cool to see. But man, if they pulled out of that's unfortunate. That would have been something to see.
Awesome. Well, then we'll skip this. Hans, did you want any thoughts, or Jeff, even any thoughts? Okay, yeah, we'll skip this if this is no longer true. All right. So, Elon commented this past week on managing FSD beta data, right? And I think there was, I believe it was the article on AI data, or that Time did on AI specifically with Elon, and kind of like how he ended up forming, his current company right now, and going through, I think it's like DeepMind, OpenAI, all of those companies. And so, Farzad, I think, was alluding to that article where it stated that there's 160 billion frames per day of video that Tesla has received and processed from cameras on its cars. And Farzad was just kind of, just commenting like how insane that is. And then Elon responds, managing that data is extremely difficult. We ignore, don't store it all, or delete most, if not all of it, right? The training videos that matter are rare ones like weird and busy intersections, so less than 1% of all videos. Tesla's limited by AI training compute. NVIDIA and Dojo will fix this. Any thoughts on this?
One of the things that I've been wondering about recently is what the fleet size of hardware 4 vehicles compared to hardware 3 vehicles does to their ability to train V12 or FSD. Because Elon did make commentary around the fact that, since the photons coming into the neural net are different on V12 than they are on not on V12, on hardware 4 are different than on hardware 3. That's I'm just trying to think through the implications of that. First of all, do different frames. So, is the model, can they use data from a hardware 4 Model Y to train a hardware 4 Model X? Or is the position of those camera sensors require, a different, and that's my intuition, my understanding of the way that the system works would say that yes, you're going to get a different set of photons in on the X, just because the positions of all those cameras are a little bit different, and so it would require its own. And so that's one of the frames that I'm looking at when I see that, hey, we're reducing prices on the S and the X right now. We're trying to sell through as many S and X hardware 4 vehicles as possible, even in this challenging environment. So, I don't know how much of that decision is driven just by interest rates or, challenges in people getting auto financing, or how much of it is we actually need more S and X cars on the road right now than we've had in the past, because we have this need for S and X specific hardware for training data. And they don't have to necessarily have FSD on their car for that camera data to be available for V12 to train on. But, it certainly doesn't hurt if they do have V12 or FSD beta. And so if we reduce the price at 15,000 down to 12,000 and also increase the take rate on FSD beta, that's another tailwind for their ability to train V12. And so I think we'll see more of this as we move forward, and we can get some commentary. looking forward to questions for Q3 and see if we can get some of this untangled.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's I do know the good and the bad of owning an S and X is that it's only 4% of the volume. And so ultimately the things that Tesla will always do will always be for the 96%. There was again this I had asked Elon in the interview again a year and like 4 months ago. I was a peasant, so it's like I got Elon to say yes to the feature, which was the blinker. So when you blink, the side repeater shows up. And then so he announced, the Model 3, Model Y, and then all the S and X, they all get it, the latest refreshes. And then it's like my legacy one doesn't get it, even though it's like really simple. And his answer was more of like they have to prioritize, all of the software updates that they do. So if they look at the fleet if they put out 5 million cars, if literally you're talking 2,000 of the cars, or again, even if it's 10,000 of the 5 million, they're going to be, again, solving for the Model 3, the Model Y. So even for training the data, I mean, that's a very good question. My car, at least the Model X that I drive, for as far as the beta goes, it's done really well, and it's only gotten better. So yeah, I don't know how much, the training of the system will actually matter in relation to having like in an S or an X versus a Model 3 and Model Y. I assume it has to be a little bit different because of the size of the vehicle, but I also don't know if that's something that it's already programmed into the system that they can kind of just avoid, where it's like, as long as it's within a certain range of error or size of the vehicle differences, they can just make small adjustments to the AI. Because I think that's the incredible thing about what they're doing. And it wasn't until Elon did this live stream where things started to click even more. Because again, you have like the smartest man in the world, like telling us live, like how the system is thinking. And it all has to do with the fact of like what's in front of it. So they may not even care. That's the insane thing. He may not even care. Like you could stick a semi and put the Tesla Pure Vision in it. And again, the specs are obviously programmed into the system, but it's still able to navigate however big the truck is, the car, or whatever. Like it really doesn't need specific training data for its size. But yeah, I mean, you are right as far as like those rare videos. He was saying like those 1% videos, those edge cases, they need to be trained into the system so that, they can handle those situations.
Yeah, what I would expect and I'm hoping for is that Tesla's creating a processor that they can feed hardware 3 camera video into, and that on the back end, it will spit out basically a transform video that would be identical to a hardware 4 camera. And then they can basically create a copy of all their hardware 3 training data and transform it into a hardware 4, whether, both on position and in the actual photon, sensor input. That would be definitely the best way to go about that. And maybe that's the reason that he's saying that there's going to be the 6-month lag, is because it's going to take them about 6 months to get all of that data transformed in that way. Because then they have the ability to leverage the entire fleet, regardless of it's hardware 3 or hardware 4, in order to curate that incredible data set that they need in order to train V12.
Definitely. So I'm looking, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. There is one thing I did want to close out on. Well, there's a couple of things we can still just hit as more of like an FYI, but this was interesting. Sawyer put this out, and I believe even Elon, I think he may have responded. I don't remember exactly, but the efficiency of the federal grant for Tesla. I mean, Tesla bids are averaging at 392,000 a site, compared with an average of 795,000 from others. That's a 51% less than their competitors. And so again, it's just one of those things where it's kind of like probably how NASA decided to work with SpaceX, because they're doing things at such a cheap rate. They're innovating and making, the process and the costs so much more efficient than anything else. So I thought that this was a big win for Tesla. and what they're doing. Especially, it just shows, that the government can spend money or give them incentives, and that they'll be able to do even more with their money that they're giving as incentives.
Well, they only got 18% of the bids. I mean, we don't know if they got everyone they bid for, but it was very interesting to see, like, a lot of these things kind of, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but it kind of seems like the government is trying to give legacy as much of a handout as they can without directly saying it's a handout. And it just so happens that Tesla is just winning on every metric. So they have no choice but to respect the fact. I mean, $795,000. I mean, that's insane. That's almost $1 million per supercharger. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild.
Definitely. All right. So I'll hit on a couple of more things. So we'll skip that one. I think Mega Pack Factory coming to Shanghai. Just some quick hits on that. And then I think that was pretty much it. There was a couple other ones, but I think we'll end there. But I want to give a shout out to Hans for your time today. Especially given the short notice. So thank you for coming on the channel. Please give him a follow if you're on X, at Hans C. Nilsson. Then if you're on YouTube, I did post a link to his channel. So feel free to go check out the content he's creating, subscribe to his channel. And then please patronize our regular hosts with a follow. Jeff at the Jeff Lutz. His referral link is in the YouTube description. If you decide on a model on a Tesla, feel free to check him out. And then same thing with Joe. He's at SJV Tesla. Please give him a follow, and also too, his referral code is there. So thank you guys for just tuning in to the beat this week. We'll be back next week. Providing you all of the updates, so this is the 1 hour you can spend with us and just kind of get updated on, the big headliners of all Tesla news. So again, thank you for watching and tuning in this week.